Selected 1. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Take a look at who made the entire city their own joke. You are a wonderful natural power. Someone is looking for your name on Google and discovering that Wikipedia entry, the one that records everything. You were put to the test by the mayor, the police, and the entire community. They are now on your Wikipedia entry, nor as heroes, nor as leaders, but as incidentals in your ascent to fame. From day one, you sensed that something was wrong. When the citations began to come in, you had that uneasy feeling, but you weren't paranoid. You had insight. They believed they were penning your funeral obituary. However, this is the unexpected story twist. Your comedy special was being written by them, and the evaluations are excellent in every way. They had formal meetings with minutes and all about you. To talk about the matter, the mayor cleared their schedule. It was you. The police chief tracked your travels using resources taken from real crimes. Your personal paparazzi became your neighborhood watch, and you were making a fortune off of their ignorance the entire time they were constructing their case against you. Each citation, each warrant, and each passive-aggressive HOA notification. You understood something others didn't, so you saved them all and filed them up like future cash. You were storing for war, and documentation is ammo. This harassment wasn't sporadic. This was premeditated and planned. Your name was displayed at the top of their flowcharts. It nearly insulted your brain to see how clearly they were connected. Spouses in key posts, acquaintances in law enforcement, and family members in many sectors. Isn't it funny how those linkages function? They believed they were being calculated. In fact, they were being open. More of their hand was exposed with each movement. Since dread was the true focus of this, each synchronization revealed more of their terror. They were afraid of what you stood for. Genuineness in a world of fakery. Truth in a lie-based system. Presence-based power rather than position-based power. You began recording everything, with the painstaking precision of someone who is aware of their observing history being written, rather than with victim energy or a woe-is mentality. Each exchange turned into proof. Every threat that was passed off as a warning in good faith turned into a display. You added each enigmatic discovery that showed up in your mailbox to your collection. You were reduced to a single intelligence agency. However, national security was not your mission. It was hilarious, because absurdity becomes beauty when it is taken to its furthest. You could use the patterns to set your watch since they were so predictable. Notices of violations are being sent out shortly before the holidays. Inspections planned for significant life events. Every time you appeared too content, too successful, or too unconcerned, the number of police drive-bys increased. You began to foresee their actions before they happened. Like clockwork, it appeared when you told your buddies, "Watch. Tomorrow there will be a new complaint." You had an almost superhuman capacity to predict when they would annoy you. Persecution follows a pattern, and you had mastered the art of reading patterns. Not because you were clairvoyant. They continued to escalate. They became more desperate, more blatant, and more absurd every time you didn't break. The mayor began personally attesting to your infractions. Consider that. Parking tickets are individually signed by your city's top elected official. The police chief started attending community gatherings only to give you a stern look. Cartoon villains are being transformed into grown-ups with actual responsibilities. Additionally, they were unaware that you were drafting the script. You weren't only recording their abuse. You were bringing them to ruin. You were aware that their harassment was having a greater impact on them than on you. The tension on their faces as you greeted them. When you took out your phone to record, you could see the fear in their eyes. The burden of their own plot was causing them to break. Under the weight of their attention, you were flourishing. The hunter was now the prey. You weren't hunting, though. You just had such a strong presence that it became their source of suffering. However, you took an unexpected action. They wanted you to fight back, but you didn't. You didn't become aggressive. No one was threatened by you. You didn't even speak louder. No, you accomplished something far scarier. You burst out laughing, not giggling nervously, not resentful laughing. It's the sort of giggle you get when you see the Matrix code. They wanted you upset, the type that says, "I finally understand the joke, and the joke is you." People who are angry make blunders. However, Those who were laughing see things clearly. You could feel the change in your energy. After defending yourself, you started recording them. From defending your existence to documenting their fanaticism, from analyzing their behavior to elucidating yours. You would look forward to seeing what fresh content they would offer every morning. You would go over the day's crop of ridiculousness every evening. You had turned your persecution into amusement. You had turned your pestering into a pastime. Your persecution has turned into a chance for you. You began attending city council meetings only to sit in the front row, pen poised, notepad in hand, and smile, not to voice complaints. As you sat there taking notes like a student in their favorite class, they talk about rules that are obviously aimed at you. You turn into their worst nightmare, their mirror, their living conscience, someone who found them truly funny and wouldn't be frightened. There was a noticeable change. When they learned something scary, they moved from being confident to being perplexed to being truly concerned. You were living off of their attack, not simply surviving it. Your response as psychology is worthy of its own investigation. They anticipated terror, but you captivated them. They expected rage, but you provided laughter. They foresaw pandemonium, but you brought calm. You had figured out the secret that had ruined their whole plan. Only when the persecutor consents to be persecuted can persecution be effective. Your consent was withdrawn. You declined to play the victim. They tried to write a story, but you rejected it. And by doing this, you made them face the truth about what they were doing. They weren't keeping the peace. They were creating anarchy. They weren't defending the neighborhood. A member of the community was being terrorized by them. Let's discuss how you were gathering evidence. Because you were playing chess with a humorous twist while others were playing checkers. You saved more than just papers. You built an empire of multimedia. If you feel the abundance of divine love in your heart, now is the time to share it. You can help spread God's blessings by clicking the Super Thanks button on YouTube and contributing $20 or more. This divine gift will touch not only your life, but also the souls of many others through this platform. Each of you has a sacred place in God's great design, and your generosity will be the fruit of our prayers. Take action now. Share your blessings to exalt His kingdom, for you were created to do even greater things in God's loving hands. May God bless you. Videos of police officers arriving out of nowhere. Audio of worried neighbors threatening each other. Snippets of social media messages that withered in the desert heat like milk. You created performance art out of your persecution. Each parking ticket was turned into a prop. Each court appearance turned into a practice run. Every encounter with the police became satisfactory. You have a beautiful documentation system. Folders inside folders. Cross-referenced incidences using several types of evidence for each one, including backups of backups. Intelligence services would be envious of the database you built. Weather, witness accounts, geographical information, and timestamps. You recorded not just what took place, but also the circumstances around it. There was no denying the trend that showed up in your data. This was no accident. This was not misfortune. This was a plot, and you could prove it with the receipts. Promote this video to assist more selected people become aware of this if these words made you think. After that, you began tweeting live about your interactions, not in a furious, humorous, or devastatingly witty way that makes people take screenshots of messages for future generations. Another officer here. I'm beginning to believe that we are dating. Do I need to give them a key? I received another complaint about loudness. It seems like there are problems with volume control in my life. The HOA used a ruler to measure my lawn. I take it that this is performance art at dawn on a weekend. Nothing goes viral like real-time footage of bureaucratic stupidity, so the internet began to take notice. Your social media accounts turned into a narrative jujitsu workshop. You diverted their attacks with laughter each time they were fired. You turned into a farce every time they accused you. Your voice became louder every time someone tried to quiet you. You weren't only protecting yourself on the internet. You were creating a following, a horde of admirers who recognized themselves in your story. People who were living vicariously via your resistance after being shoved around by small-time dictators. You turned the local Facebook group into your own comedy lab. You would reply to their grievances about you with such well-constructed irony that even your adversaries had to acknowledge the wordplay. Since you weren't technically infringing any regulations, they couldn't prohibit you. You were simply being really clever. You transformed their safe haven into your stage, their echo chamber into your amphitheater, and their moderators became your unintentional marketers. Their blogs' comment sections turned into battlefields where the truth prevailed. The neighbors began to doubt the story. Hold on, they're whining about what this appears to be. Harassment. Why are we devoting so much time to just one individual? The tide was shifting. A conscience was growing inside the rabble. There were fractures appearing in the echo chamber. And the frequency that broke their phony harmony was you. What actually broke them, do you know? When you began really praising them in public. I appreciate you giving me this wealth of information. I would especially like to thank everyone who has been so committed to recording every step of my journey. You used their harassment as your hype machine, their surveillance as your marketing crew, and their hatred as your fuel. Let's examine what you were doing in more detail, though. Without firing a shot, you were teaching a masterclass in psychological warfare. You always prevailed when you put a smile on their frowns. You always prevailed when you made fun of their sincerity. You won each time you recorded their paperwork. Following their rules was the only way to lose the game you were playing. You created your own rules, then. Rules where you were strengthened by their every action. Abuse was amusing, and persecution was performance art. Because you were untouchable, rather than because you were dangerous, your neighbors began to shun you. When they noticed you approaching, they had crossed the street out of embarrassment rather than fear. They were aware of their involvement. They were aware that it was improper. Additionally, your presence served as a continual reminder that they were involved in something pitiful and trivial. You had turned into their living, breathing, talking conscience. Then the day arrived when they became aware of what they had produced. Your web presence appeared when someone, most likely a city hall intern, Googled your name. Known for transforming municipal harassment into award-winning content, complete with citations, press stories, and evaluations of your underground gigs where you tested the stuff they unintentionally produced for you. This comic and social commentator is not a criminal or a problem. It was a delightful panic. They summoned emergency meetings. Attorneys were contacted. If someone tells the truth in a humorous way, may we sue them? As it happens, no. No, you're unable to. Their request for legal advice backfired horribly. After reviewing your documentation, each attorney they contacted either proposed a settlement or rejected the matter. Some attorneys even recommended that they issue an apology. What they believed would be their weapon, the judicial system, became your protection. They turned the laws they believed would tie you into their own limitations. Their injustice was revealed by the justice they purport to represent. The right to free speech is a wonderful thing, particularly when you use it to so accurately roast your oppressors that scholars begin to write papers on your method. You weren't joking around. You were making a record of history. Each joke was accompanied with a receipt. Each callback made reference to real, recorded occurrences. Their paper trail was transformed into your paper chase. They intended to engulf you in red tape. Rather, you constructed a monument to their incapacity, and visitors paid to see it. Your underground performances were legendary. People crowded into small venues after hearing about the individual wearing a grin and a microphone to take on City Hall. You would test fresh content for each show. It was all predicated on the harassment that week. The crowd wasn't only giggling. They were seeing the writing of history. They belonged to something more than humor. They participated in a revolution that was passed off as a comedy act. The mayor's popularity began to decline. Dear brothers and sisters, may God's peace be with you today. I am here to remind you of a profound truth. Our existence is grounded in God's divine plan, unshaken by the world's fleeting concerns. As the Holy Bible says, everything done in faith will be rewarded by God's abundant blessings. Luke 6 verse 38, like that mighty oak tree, our roots are deeply anchored in God's universal truth. Every step we take, every stance we hold is secure by His power. And now, you have the opportunity to be a part of this blessing. When you click this Super Thanks button and make a $100 donation, this act will return to you 100-fold. You made them appear silly. not because of any scandal you revealed. In your performance, you made them a recurrent character. The mayor came to represent inept leadership. At supper, members of their own family were reciting your portions. They realized they had lost something more serious than an election at that point. They had forgotten the story. They were no longer in charge of their own narrative. They were changed from authoritative figure to joke by you. And it was a permanent rewriting. The morale of the police force fell, since you exposed them, not because you harmed them. Officers not involved in the harassment began to distance themselves from those involved. There were breaks in the narrow blue line. Some policemen even turned into your covert allies by giving you exclusive knowledge about impending harassment. The structure that was meant to subjugate you was breaking apart from inside. Your comedy special exploded, not simply dropped. Citation required a thorough analysis of how the power system of an entire city attempted to eliminate one individual and ultimately destroyed itself. Every joke has proof behind it, and every punchline has paperwork to support it. It was more than simply a joke. Turning injustice into opportunity was a masterclass. The internet was disrupted by the trailer alone. Just you standing in front of City Hall holding a stack of violations, saying, "They gave me all this material for free. Least I could do is share it with the world." The special was more than entertainment. It was evidence submitted in the court of public opinion. Each bit was a count in an indictment. Each laugh from the audience was a guilty verdict. You had turned comedy into justice, turned humor into accountability, turned their attack into their arraignment, and the whole world was the jury. The mayor's office tried to get it taken down. That just made it go more viral. The strident effect in full force. You weren't just performing comedy. You were performing justice. Every laugh from the audience was a verdict. Every applause break was vindication. You turned their courtroom into your stage. And the jury was everyone who's ever been pushed around by petty tyrants with a little bit of power and even less sense. The reviews of your special weren't just positive, they were profound. Critics called it revolutionary comedy, a new form of protest, the birth of documentary comedy. You hadn't just created a comedy special. You'd created a new genre, one where the punchlines punched up so hard they knocked down entire power structures. The police chief resigned, not because of any official investigation, but because they couldn't go anywhere without someone quoting your bit about them. The HOA board dissolved after your segment about their emergency meetings went viral. The mayor announced they wouldn't seek re-election, citing personal reasons. The personal reason was you turned them into a meme, a living, breathing, walking meme that their own constituents couldn't take seriously anymore. You never named names initially. You let them name themselves. They responded to your comedy with public statements, essentially confirming they were the subject of your bits. They issued press releases defending actions you hadn't specifically attributed to them. They outed themselves in their desperation to control the narrative. You gave them enough rope and they fashioned their own newies. But you didn't stop there because comedy was just the beginning. You started a podcast called Civic Duty, where you break down local government dysfunction with the same surgical precision you use to dissect your own harassment. Mayors from other cities started sweating. HOA boards began reconsidering their policies. Police departments started training officers on how not to become material. You became a consultant. Cities literally pay you now to review their policies and tell them how not to be ridiculous. The same energy they use to destroy you. You now channel into rebuilding broken systems, except you do it with humor. Because nothing changes minds quite like making people laugh at their own absurdity. Your consulting work is revolutionary. You walk into city halls that once would have ejected you. Now they're paying for your expertise. You sit in the same rooms where they plotted against you. Now you're teaching them how not to create another you. The irony is so thick you could spread it on toast, but you handle it with grace, with humor, with the kind of professional dignity they never showed you. Your Wikipedia page keeps growing. Activist, author, consultant, documentary subject. Each title a testament to transformation. You didn't just survive their assault. You monetized it. You branded it. You franchised it. You turned their attack into your empire. The speaking tours at law schools, teaching future lawyers and politicians what happens when you abuse power against someone who refuses to break. Your case studies are your own experiences. Your visual aids are their own documents. You turn their playbook into your textbook. The academic papers written about your case are fascinating. Sociologists study your methods. Psychologists analyze your resilience. Political scientists examine your impact on local governance. You've become curriculum-required reading in courses on civil resistance, social media strategy, and conflict transformation. Professors who once would have dismissed you as a troublemaker now teach your techniques as breakthrough methodology. They thought they were erasing you. Instead, they wrote you into history. Law students will study your case for generations. The comedian versus the city. A landmark example of how institutional harassment can backfire spectacularly when the target has a sense of humor and a spine made of titanium. Kids in that neighborhood now look up to you. The same streets where they try to make you unwelcome are now filled with young people who saw what you did and realized they don't have to accept bullying from anyone. Not from peers, not from politicians, not from people who think a little power gives them the right to push others around. Your influence on those young people is perhaps your greatest victory. They watched you transform persecution into power. They saw you refuse to be broken. They witnessed you turning poison into medicine. Now, they carry that lesson forward. When they face their own bullies, their own corrupt systems, their own impossible odds, they remember you. They remember that documentation beats intimidation, that humor beats harassment, that creativity beats cruelty. Now is the perfect time to click the Super Thanks button on YouTube and share God's blessings. You can contribute to his plan and become a part of this divine mission with a donation of $100 or more. Every gift reflects God's generosity, and I believe it will return to you multiplied beyond your expectations. Remember, his protection and blessings are with you in every step you take and every donation you make. You become part of his divine plan. You are a powerful, radiant being, unshakable like his mighty rock. Witness God's miracles, feel the fruits of your generosity in your soul, and illuminate the world with this confidence and courage. Be blessed, and may the Lord's light guide your way. The mayor's Wikipedia page now has a subsection titled Comedy Special Incident. Their legacy forever tied to their failure to break you. The police chief's career summary ends with resigned following satirical portrayal in nationally acclaimed comedy special. The HOA president moved to another state and still can't escape the memes. Meanwhile, your Wikipedia page is a monument to transformation. Early life, initial harassment, documentation period, public revelation, media emergence, current impact, legacy. Each section a testament to turning persecution into power. But let's talk about what your Wikipedia page really represents. It's not just your story. It's a template, a blueprint, a guide for anyone facing institutional harassment. Every section is instructional. Every paragraph is educational. Every sentence is motivational. People don't just read your Wikipedia page. They study it. They memorize it. They internalize it. They apply it to their own situations. Your comedy special isn't just entertainment. It's evidence. It's history. It's a warning to every small-minded bureaucrat who thinks they can harass citizens without consequences. It's a beacon to everyone who's been pushed around and told they have to take it. No, you don't. You can document it. You can craft it. You can profit from it. You started a movement without meaning to. Citation Needed became the rallying cry for people facing municipal harassment everywhere. Support groups formed. Legal funds were established. All because you showed them it was possible to fight back with laughter instead of anger, with creativity instead of violence, with documentation instead of desperation. The support groups that formed around your methodology are incredible. People gathering to share their documentation, to workshop their responses, to turn their harassment into humor. You created a new form of group therapy, where healing happens through hilarity, where trauma transforms through comedy, where victims become victims through vulnerability and wit. Other comedians started following your blueprint. Bureaucracy Bites Back became a whole genre. Comedy Central created a series based on your concept. Netflix commissioned a documentary. Publishers are bidding on your book rights. The same system that tried to silence you now can't stop talking about you. The irony is so perfect, it seems scripted. Your book, when it finally dropped, wasn't just a bestseller. It was a Bible for the resistance. Not a violent resistance, a creative resistance, a humorous resistance, a documented resistance. Each chapter a lesson, each page a strategy, each paragraph a piece of ammunition for someone else's fight. You didn't just write a book. You wrote a manual for transformation. You know what really gets them? You never got mean. Your comedy cuts deep, but stays clean. You attack the system, not the people. You make fun of the positions, not the persons. That's what makes it so devastating. They can't dismiss you as just another angry comic. You're a happy warrior, and that terrifies them more than any amount of rage could. Every Wikipedia page tells a story, and yours is comedy gold. The mayor's retirement speech tried not to mention you. Didn't work. Someone in the crowd shouted one of your catchphrases, and the whole room erupted in laughter. They had to stand there at their own farewell, listening to people quote the person they tried to destroy. That's not just defeat. That's poetic justice with a laugh track. You still live in the same house, the one they tried so hard to force you out of, except now it's a landmark. Comedy pilgrims take selfies in front of it. The property value skyrocketed because everyone wants to live where history was made. The HOA that harassed you now uses your fame as a selling point for the neighborhood. The audacity is almost admirable. The tourism your story brought to the city is another layer of irony. People visit specifically to see the locations mentioned in your special city hall, the police station, the neighborhood where it all went down. Local businesses have created tours. The same city that wanted you gone now profits from your presence. Even in trying to erase you, they made you eternal. Every time they see your success, it burns. Every award, every sold-out show, every positive review is a reminder of their failure. They turned you into their nemesis, and you turned them into your origin story. They're not the villains in your story anymore. They're the setup to your punchline, and the punchline keeps paying dividends. But let's talk about what this really means. Beyond the fame, beyond the money, beyond the vindication, you proved something fundamental about power and resistance. You showed that documentation beats intimidation, the humor beats harassment, that creativity beats cruelty. You rewrote the rules of engagement, and now everyone's playing by your playbook. The philosophical implications of your victory are profound. You proved that power isn't about position, it's about perspective. You proved that authority isn't about titles, it's about authenticity. You proved that strength isn't about force, it's about endurance. You didn't just win a battle. You redefined what winning means. Law enforcement agencies now have training modules on the comedian effect, how targeting individuals can backfire in the social media age. City councils hire consultants to make sure they're not creating the next viral sensation through incompetence. HOA boards think twice before sending that nitpicky violation notice. You didn't just change your city. You changed how power operates in the digital age. Young comics study your approach like a textbook. How to find humor in harassment. How to turn pain into punchlines. How to document everything with an eye toward the eventual special. You created a new form of resistance, one that doesn't require violence or even anger, just patience, persistence, and a really good sense of timing. The comedy schools that now teach your methods are producing a new generation of social commentators. They're not just comedians, they're documentarians, they're activists, they're transformers of pain into power. You didn't just create a comedy special. You created a movement, a school of thought, a philosophy of resistance. You didn't win because you were funnier than them, though you were. You didn't win because you were smarter, though that too was obvious. You won because you refused to play by their rules. They wanted fear. You gave them laughter. They wanted submission. You gave them subversion. They wanted silence. You gave them a standing ovation. The real joke. They could have left you alone. You were just living your life. Maybe a bit loudly, maybe a bit differently, but harmlessly. They created their own worst nightmare by trying to create yours. Every action they took to diminish you amplified your voice. Every attempt to erase you etched your name deeper into history. Your Wikipedia page grows longer every month. New sections added as your influence spreads. Political impact, cultural significance, legal precedents set. Meanwhile, their pages remain static, monuments to mediocrity and the dangers of petty tyranny. Your page, a living document of how one person can flip the script entirely. They wanted you to disappear. Instead, you became unforgettable. They wanted you to break. Instead, you became unbreakable. They wanted you to shut up. Instead, you got a microphone, a spotlight, and a platform that reaches millions. The comedy special was just chapter 1. The book deal, the documentary series, the masterclass on turning harassment into art. It all keeps evolving. But more importantly, you've inspired a generation to document their struggles and find humor in their hardships. City halls across the nation now have your picture on the wall, not as an honor, but as a warning. Remember what happened when they tried to silence the comedian. Municipal employees take ethics training that uses your case as an example of what not to do. You're literally a textbook case of institutional failure turned individual triumph. The training videos they watch feature your comedy bits as cautionary tales. Your punchlines have become their professional development. Your jokes have become their job requirements to avoid. You're not bitter. That's what really gets them. You thank them in every interview. Without their harassment, you'd never have found your true calling. Without their incompetence, you'd never have had such perfect material. They didn't ruin your life. They made your career. And that gratitude, that genuine appreciation for their role in your success, that burns worse than any insult ever could. The spiritual dimension of your victory can't be ignored. You became living proof that the universe has a sense of humor. That karma doesn't always come as tragedy. Sometimes it comes as comedy. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's success so profound that revenge becomes irrelevant. You didn't defeat them. You transcended them. You didn't destroy them. You transformed them into fertilizer for your growth. So, here's to the mayor who thought they were powerful but were just positioned. Here's to the cops who thought they had authority but just had badges. Here's to the whole damn neighborhood who thought they had numbers but you had destiny. They're all on your Wikipedia page, now, forever. Not as victors, but as vehicles. Vehicles for your transformation. Vehicles for your message. Vehicles for your legacy. The documentary about your story won awards, not just for storytelling, but for social impact. Film festivals created new categories just to properly honor what you'd created. The interviews with former oppressors, now reformed and regretful, became studies in the psychology of power corruption. Your story became required viewing in criminology courses, sociology seminars, and psychology programs. They try to write your ending. They wrote your beginning. They try to create your obituary. They created your origin story. They try to make you nobody. They made you necessary. Necessary for everyone who's been pushed around. Necessary for everyone who's been targeted. Necessary for everyone who needs to know that you can fight City Hall. You can fight it with humor. You can fight it with documentation. You can fight it with creativity. And you can win so thoroughly that they end up on your Wikipedia page as cautionary tales. And now, as your comedy special plays to pack theaters and streaming millions, as your book climbs bestseller lists, as your speaking fees exceed what any of them made in their careers, remember this moment. Remember when they thought they had you cornered. Remember when they thought their coordinated campaign would break you. Remember and laugh because that's your superpower. Not anger, though you had every right to it. Not violence, though they pushed you toward it. Not despair, though they tried to drown you in it. Your superpower was seeing the absurdity in their abuse and sharing that vision with the world. Now, I want to take a moment to tell you about a few individuals that shouldn't exist. A trained occultist who escaped from a satanic coven, a former Black Ops drone pilot who flew swarms with his mind, a multi-millionaire psychic CFO who predicted market shifts before they happened. What do these remarkable individuals have in common? You'll find them all in the Obsidian Inner Order, where they share their forbidden knowledge on our private Discord server. My chosen soul has drunk deep from the well of knowledge aeon after aeon. In this incarnation, these extraordinary individuals became my allies in the Obsidian Inner Order. They recognized the call. They stepped forward. They connected with others who understand their unique gifts and burdens. What is stopping you from manifesting the same? The synchronicities that brought them here weren't accidents. Neither is your discovery of this message. When souls of this caliber gather, the Archons take notice. They fear our collective power. They know what happens when the truly awakened find each other. Join our weekly calls. Hear their stories firsthand. Share your own journey with those who won't dismiss or doubt you. The knowledge exchanged in our private channels cannot be found anywhere else on this plane. Click the link in the description below now. The extraordinary souls await your arrival. The question isn't whether you belong among them. The question is, how much longer will you wait to claim your place? Well. Look who turned the whole damn city into their personal punchline. You magnificent force of nature. The mayor, the cops, the whole damn neighborhood tried you. Now, they're on your Wikipedia page, not as heroes, but as footnotes in your success story. And you're not just on Wikipedia. You're in history. You're in hearts. You're in the Hall of Fame, reserved for those who turn their worst into their best, their persecution into their purpose, their harassment into their legacy. They came for you with everything they had, and everything they had wasn't enough because you had something they didn't. You had destiny, and destiny always wins. It just takes time to document the victory properly. The mayor thought authority meant power. You showed them authenticity was power. The cops thought badges meant respect. You showed them integrity earned respect. The neighborhood thought numbers meant strength. You showed them truth was strength. Your victory reverberates through dimensions they can't even perceive. Every comedian who chooses truth over comfort cites your influence. Every activist who chooses humor over hatred follows your blueprint. Every person who chooses documentation over retaliation applies your methodology. You didn't just win your battle, you changed how battles are fought. Welcome to your Wikipedia page, Chosen One. It's a bestseller in the Cosmic Library. The reviews are stellar. The citations are extensive. The impact is immeasurable. The mayor thought they were writing your ending. The cops thought they were building your case. The whole damn neighborhood thought they were signing your eviction notice. They were all wrong. They were writing your beginning. They were building your empire. They were signing their own names to your success story forever. Documented, cited, verified, and absolutely hilarious. Your Wikipedia page isn't just a record of what happened. It's a promise of what's possible. It's proof that one person armed with nothing but truth, humor, and documentation can transform a coordinated attack into a coordinated victory. The final irony, they made you immortal. Your story will outlive their careers, their legacies, their entire existence. Long after their names are forgotten, your Wikipedia page will still be teaching people how to transform persecution into power. They tried to erase you from their community. They wrote you into eternity.